Morning, everybody. Welcome to a Monday edition of The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I'm Emerson Latzia, Jesse Cofield.
We did not plan these outfits. We didn't.
How about it, huh? This is the new uniform of DraftKings.
So you guys are wearing your shirts, right?
Yeah. Everybody have their shirts on. Julian and Colin, everyone feeling good this morning.
Also, you can get these shirts if you should so choose in the DraftKings shop. You can go buy them.
Yeah.
So maybe all of our viewers should be wearing them as well.
Yep, for sure.
Go place your order.
Guys, so we're going to start the show here real quick with our crazy sweat bracket madness.
Wow.
We got some winners here to announce. So Barry Bonds knocks off Aaron Rodgers, Bobby Orr over John Jones, Randy Moss over Mike Trout, Larry Bird over Cristiano Ronaldo.
Sidney Crosby is tied with Roger Clemens. So we actually have had a poll that has been open until the start of this show. So we'll let you know who won that once our producer does let us know.
Where is it over there?
Who's winning? Nope, we still don't know. They're going to let us know.
I voted in that poll earlier.
Sidney Crosby has officially won. All right, so Sidney Crosby has beat out Roger Clemens.
66.7% of the vote, Sidney Crosby. Roger Clemens, 33.3%.
Oscar Robertson over Roger Federer. Connor McDavid over Lisa Leslie. Priest Holmes over Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, we are going to dive into NCAA tournament odds, really conference tournament odds, because it's a busy week. Selection Sunday is just 6 days away. But we had some breaking news.
Yep.
Moments ago, Derek Carr reportedly signing a 4-year deal with the New Orleans Saints. Julian Edlow, question for you. Fantasy impact, betting impact of this. Saints currently plus 150 to win the NFC South. What do you think here, pal?
Yeah, I guess it legitimizes the Saints a little bit. I think Derek Carr is one of those quarterbacks that you'll get a pretty wide range of opinions on. My personal opinion, a little above average, nothing special. There's other people that will tell you he's, well within the top 10, a 6, 7, 8 quarterback in the NFL. I don't see that. It makes the Saints a little more attractive, but honestly, with the shape that the Falcons are in, and the Panthers are in a full rebuild, and just having Tom Brady retire out of the division, as long as you have anything stable at quarterback, it makes the Saints the favorite there. And they'll have that in Derek Carr. So I don't know if it's a massive upgrade that's going to change their franchise, but it certainly makes them a safe play within the division. I don't know if they'll be in much contention in the NFC, though.
Hey, Colin, what does this mean for the Jets? And what does it mean for, Aaron Rodgers, who's apparently still in a darkness retreat? Or, he said he was going to make his decision after the darkness retreat, and we still haven't heard anything.
That's a really good question. I have no idea where the Jets go. I do know that they are going to be – they'll still have Zach Wilson under contract, but it looks like Mike White's going to be a free agent as well. So I'm not sure what they're going to do. If I'm a New Yorker – you just have to be so frustrated at this point. This team can't even spend money correctly. I am out here in Las Vegas right now, though, and I'm not exactly sure how they feel. I will go out and get the live, local, and late breaking news about how they feel about losing Derek Carr and if they'll be rooting for the Saints for the rest of the season. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see the Saints franchise too, in which direction I guess Jameis is just gone now. That's just not even a thing.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's go ahead and let's shift gears. You're out there in Vegas. There's a conference tournament being played out there, right? Latest edition of Hidden Jewels coming your way right now. Jules, this is named after you, Jules. So talking just semis and conference final matchups that we have today. What's your favorite bet on the board, dude?
So the games that I'm most looking forward to tonight are honestly 2 games that I'm invested in conference championship futures in. So they're not games that I'm specifically betting. The first being Gonzaga, that tips at 11:30 Eastern. Colin will be there. I'll probably be sound asleep, hoping that my 15-point favorite in the Zags gets there, and we'll have the championship game tomorrow night in Vegas. I'm hoping not to wake up to any nightmares there. But Youngstown is a team in the horizon that I'm pretty interested in. I played them at plus 180 to win their conference tournament. They're growing favorites, I think up to 3.5, 4-ish range now. And I think that if you're not invested in this tournament, they're either a good bet to lay a few points with, or to just go with the money line rollover. If you want them to win it, you take the minus 165 tonight, take all those winnings in your initial investment, put it on the money line after they hopefully win this game tomorrow night to get a decent price on them to win it all. So those are the two games that I'm looking forward to most. I'm not betting on those individual games because of the conference odds, though. So there are two conference championship games on the board tonight. And if I was betting those, I would probably be looking at taking the points with Chattanooga against Furman. And then as well, the short dog, South Alabama, it would probably be the side for me going against Louisiana Lafayette. But I haven't bet either of those yet.
All right, Colin, what's your move here tonight? Colin, you got us?
Julian stealing my picks once again is on his podcast last week. I told him that UT Chattanooga was the team to look at in the SoCon. Jake Stevens, 7 feet tall, shoots 42% from three. He's back. He didn't play like the last 8 games of the regular season. He came back from the tournament. They won 3 in a row in the tournament. Chattanooga was 10-1 going, a little taste of it. Difference maker for this team. If you're 7 feet tall and you can shoot threes in the SoCon, you're the best player, just straight up. And this kid is really good. He's made a difference for them. They got to get through one more game. They've had to play one extra game to get there, but I really like Chattanooga. They're catching 4 tonight. I like it. I think they're going to outright win the title. I take some money line as well.
All right, prediction time. ACC Conference Tourney winner. Miami and Duke enter Greensboro in the best form of the top 4 seeds. Like, Colin, who's taking the title? Come on.
I think Julian and I, via text message, have the exact same interest here, which is we both have Miami. And we both think Miami's going to win this tournament. Miami's the best team in the ACC. It's a wide open league. This is not a lock, but I think if you would rather have Miami than any other team in this league right now. They're the most consistent in a very inconsistent league. They go through long stretches where they don't play great defense. They can be beaten in the post if you have a really quality big. And so like a guy like Armando Bacot could go off on them. Kyle Filipowski could be a guy who could get them pretty good. But in the long run, they are the best bet. They are extremely efficient on offense. Isaiah Watt, when he wants to, can get to the rim on anybody in that league. And I think they are the most efficient. It's their tournament to win. They're going to do the double.
All right, Jules, you on the same page?
Yeah, on the same page here. Duke did end the regular season kind of on a high note. They've been playing better. They got the road win at UNC. So I think that Duke obviously has the most talent and could get it together, but Miami is the team that I have my money on to win that conference. They've been the best team throughout the ACC regular season in a conference that just hasn't had anything going for it. And I think we're going to see that come the big tournament, fade those ACC teams. But yeah, as we're looking at these, Miami plus 340 would be the play there in the ACC right now.
Hey, Jules, let's go to the Big 12. Kansas, the reigning champs, looking like a team that could very well become the first to repeat as national champ since Florida back in 06 and 07 here. Is this the Jayhawks tournament to lose?
I'm not going to say it's the Jayhawks tournament to lose because I think the Big 12 is just so stacked. Anybody can beat anybody, but Kansas should win because they are the best team maybe in the country right now and definitely in the Big 12. That being said, they're going to have a tougher path. Baylor's going to get a revenge spot against Iowa State in the first round, and if they can, or the second round, whatever you want to call it, if they can win that game, they're going to be playing Kansas. That's a big heavyweight matchup before we even get to the title game. So I kind of like Texas's path on the other side a little bit more, but still you're going to get, a K-State, a TCU, like you're going to have a tough game there too. So for me, Kansas is probably the safest bet, but again, it wouldn't surprise me if they don't even play in the title game and Baylor's in there.
I mean, Colin, a 10th Big 12 tournament championship under Bill Self could likely clinch them the number 1 overall seed here.
Yeah, and I think they would be worthy of that number 1 overall seed. And quad 1 wins, they're so light years ahead of the rest of the country, it's not even close. The only concern that I have Kansas in a 3-day tournament is that they don't play a lot of guys. Rotation's about 7 guys. You want to have a little bit more depth in these bounce-back situations. That's my only concern. Kansas is the best team. Kansas is going to be who I'm betting to win the NCAA championship. They are They have depth. They can do it inside. They can do it outside. They defend. They have veteran leadership and guys like Jalen Wilson. They've been there before. They just won the darn thing last year. So I really like Kansas to get through in a long tournament situation where you get a rest day where, it's 3 weekends. But in 3 straight days, I have some concerns. I think the price is probably about right. And if we were breaking this up over a 6-day tournament, I have Kansas at like plus 220 instead of plus 300 because some of the random would get taken out of here. So Kansas is the best team, but I like it. I don't love it.
All right, Colin, Purdue took care of business, beating Wisconsin on the road, Illinois at home to wrap up the Big Ten. Who has a chance in this conference outside of them?
Does Purdue even have a chance? Can Purdue win this thing? I don't think Purdue can win this thing. I think Purdue just has so many flaws. It is Zach Edey, who is by far the best player in the country, and 4 dudes from math class. And I am sick of watching these 4 dudes from math class fail the best player in the country. Matt Painter has failed to surround him with the talent that he needs to win a tournament. I don't think they're tough enough. I don't think they can shoot it well enough over 3 days. I like Indiana. I like Michigan State. I like a lot of other teams down the board here. I don't think Purdue wins this tournament. And that's crazy because they do have the best player. I think we're looking at yet another Purdue flameout in this tournament and in the NCAA tournament, and another wasted opportunity and a wasted spot for a team that just can't get over the hump and hasn't been to the final since 1980 for a reason.
Julian, do you agree?
Yeah, Purdue's a fade for me. They had a great start to Big Ten play. They've definitely leveled off. And even though Indiana is a team that had a chance to make 4 free throws for me yesterday in the last 6 seconds to get a cover that they missed all 4 of, I will still give them a little bit of love here and say that Indiana plus 550 is by far my favorite bet here. Purdue being 140 on that board just creates value with almost anyone else. So if you have a team that you like that isn't Purdue, you should bet them because Purdue is way overpriced in this conference. And for me, the team that I'm gonna use that value on is gonna be Indiana at plus 550. But again, if you like another team, I would certainly bet them, particularly if they're on the other side of the bracket of a Purdue. Although I'm high on Indiana, so I think you want to kind of get your value on the Purdue side maybe. I would go ahead and do it because plus 140 is crazy for Purdue.
Jules, which team you back in to win the SEC here on the DK Sportsbook?
Yeah, the SEC has gotten kind of messy lately. Like the 2 dominant teams all year have been Alabama and Tennessee, but those are 2 teams that I want to fade in this tournament. Alabama has slowed down, some of it probably for basketball reasons and some of it for off the court reasons, obviously. And then Tennessee is just a team that can get into rock fights and they lose their heartbeat in their point guard going into this tournament. Like them being the 2 favorites, much like Purdue, creates a lot of value on the board. So the question is, who's going to come up and take it? And I'll say maybe Kentucky, A&M, and then Arkansas. Those are the 3 teams that I think have the best chance. So any of those 3, and you see the prices there, to win the SEC would be where I go. And I'll say this, Alabama, since the Brandon Miller story came out, is 0-4 against the first half spread by a wide margin in those 4 games. And they've been coming back in the second half. So in these SEC tournament games, I would specific game by game for as long as Alabama's alive, I would be looking to fade them on the first half line, playing an underdog every game against them.
All right, Colin, fading the big dogs as well?
Absolutely, for sure. I was hoping to get Kentucky at 6-1 here. 450 is just a little too thin for me. I can't quite get there. And so that's only going to leave me with one bet, and that is my beloved Arkansas Razorbacks, who play as hard as anyone in the country. They're not as good as that, just can come at you in waves. I really like them in tournament situations because they can just get hot. And they don't get tired. It's incredible. So yes, I really like it. Give me all of this. Arkansas is the only team here I can bet, and I don't love any of it. This for me is the toughest tournament to handicap.
All right, guys, we are running out of time, so this has to be really quick. What chance are you giving Arizona to upset UCLA and win the Pac-12 tournament? These two have won 6 of the last 8 Pac-12 tournaments. Real quick, Colin.
I will be there. I will be cheering for Arizona, but I can't really bet them. I think UCLA is just too good defensively this year. They have a guy who can get a bucket in anytime he wants, and Jaime Jaquez. I just think they're too good. I think UCLA is going to win this tournament. I'm going to be rooting against them because I don't like the way they play basketball, and I don't like Mick Cronin, and I don't like him yelling at his players all the time. But give me Arizona, or give me UCLA to win it because I think that's the best play.
What's the move, Jules?
A slight chance, but not a very good one. I would be stunned if these two teams are not playing in the Pac-12 championship game, though. So you can go ahead and bet either of them right now, and you're going to have a good number by the time the game rolls around.
All right, gentlemen, appreciate it. We'll talk to both of you a little later. We got NBA building blocks coming up right after Gojo talks a little bit about the return of KD. Suns now 3-0 with him in the lineup.
We talked with Tom Havistro yesterday, and he was, as we recorded, getting ready to go watch Kevin Durant against the Hornets, which went pretty well. Kevin Durant had 23 points in 27 minutes, didn't really look rusty, and like Tom talked about, going to be weaned back minutes-wise. Mm-hmm. Pressure you're going to put on his body-wise. But it looked the part. Now, the Hornets probably not a great example, right? LaMelo Ball out for the rest of the year. Unfortunately, right. That team, had been on a 5-game win streak, but certainly not the Hornets team that we expected at the start of the season. But right. Kevin Durant being back on the court now, I think is going to be fascinating given the juncture we're at in NBA conversation right now. Because between the Jokic MVP stuff that's been going on, between just the general tenor around that, and then conversations you heard the other day from Charles Barkley on First Take, talking about Kevin Durant and how he needs to go and win a championship on his own to prove something to the, or whatever it was. Basically, this idea that the way he's done it has not satisfied his detractors really does speak to the strange place that we're at right now. Because if you look at Kevin Durant and the Suns team that are supposed to be the favorites in the Western Conference, if they go on and win the NBA Finals this year, are we going to look at Kevin Durant any differently than we did already? Is that going to meaningfully move the needle for him if he comes in on the back half of the season and wins a title with a team that already had that foundation of Chris Paul and Devin Booker?
Okay, so what you're asking me is, if Kevin Durant wins a championship with the Suns, will I degrade or downgrade him from one of the basketball players that we've ever seen, like a silent assassin, to like Robert Horry status?
No, that's not what I'm asking at all. Okay. No, because I don't want to get into the realm of the ridiculous, right? Kevin Durant's legacy is very secure. I'm just wondering if this drop in the bucket is a net of anything for him, for a player that's been, outside of LeBron James in this era, has been one of the guys that we've talked about as the best basketball player at the world at a bunch of different junctions, and now would have multiple championships among multiple teams, and would have come over on the Suns, which, like a watered down Warriors situation where there was a foundation in place. The core of this team took them to an NBA Finals appearance a couple of years ago. And then you came in and were the thing that put them over the top. Like in both cases, Kevin Durant walks in and is immediately the best player on the team. Kevin Durant walked into the Warriors and immediately was the best player on that team, the same way he is now immediately the best player on the Phoenix Suns when he's fully healthy. I just don't know if it does anything. It should, I think, being able to drop in the back half of the season, like Tom said, to be the most plug-and-play, game-ready player because of your skill set, that should count for a lot. And this should absolutely be a feather in his cap. But it just seems like some of the people that talk about the sport have already made up their minds about Kevin Durant in a way that won't be affected by this.
I think performance matters. I honestly do think that, Kevin Durant having to put the team on his back the way that he kind of did in some of those games with the Warriors, even though they didn't need him to, I think performance matters and competition matters as well. Because I think Kevin Durant has looked human in these with the Nets, has he not? Like, especially he's even in godlike moments, like the elimination game where he shot a 2-pointer instead of a 3-pointer against the Bucks. he has looked human, and he is a plug and play ready player. But I just feel like he's a beneficiary for the world that LeBron James made.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Sweat. Jesse and Emerson here, and DraftKings contributors Julian Edlow and DK Nation's Chinmay Veja are also with us. Guys, as you know, we have the Sweat Fantasy Bracket Madness going on, okay? And voting is live for the A region, okay? We have an incredible Tevin said matchup between two of the biggest names in sports during the 2000s. 10th ranked Shaquille O'Neal squared up against 7th ranked Peyton Manning. All right, both of these dudes, multiple time champs on more than one team, both set offensive records and were considered the top player in their league for multiple seasons. Both of them are also funny on TV today. Very exciting. Chinmay, who gets your vote between these two GOATs?
This is a really tough one because not only did they have accomplished careers on the field, they've done really well after their playing careers off the field. They're both funny guys. They've both hosted several events. Shaq is on TNT with Inside the NBA crew that has done tremendous in terms of awards for sports programming. Peyton Manning has done plenty of things comedically, SNL as well, the ESPYs. I believe he was on several Comedy Central roasts of celebrities. So this is a really tough one. And I am personally biased towards Shaquille O'Neal. I think he was the biggest personality in the NBA at the time. And he also went through a lot of struggles early in his career before ultimately winning, getting that three-peat, delivering a championship to Miami later on when he got traded. I personally am biased towards Shaq, but I can see the case for Peyton Manning as well. I think this is one of those really fun matchups that you can really go either way. It's a toss-up for me.
All right. Julian, in total, number 10 seeds hold a 57-87 record against number 7 seeds since the NCAA tournament field expanded in 1985. So basically, in terms of March Madness, this is always just super close. So who gets your vote?
Yeah, 7-10 matchup can always go either way, and I think that this is two of the biggest stars of their generation. Like, there was a time when Peyton Manning, you could probably argue, best player in the NFL. There's a time you could probably argue Shaquille O'Neal was the best player in the NBA. So it comes down to who had more success, and that's Shaq for me. He had the three-peat in the mid-2000s, got another one with Miami, and helped a lot of teams win, whereas Peyton Manning, although he did get the one in Indy, probably lost more big games than he won, and eventually was helped by a really good Denver defense that helped bring him to his second one. So twice as many rings for Shaq, probably won more big games than a guy like Peyton Manning did, or a higher percentage. You don't get as many cracks in football, but we'll call it a higher percentage of big games in the NBA, so I'll go Shaq.
All right, speaking of big dudes, 6-game slate tonight around the NBA. Jules, give me a center to build your lineup around.
Yeah, it's an intriguing center slate. It always is when you have Jokic and Embiid there, the 1-2 guys in the MVP race for a few years now. I think that Jokic is probably the safer play, but give me Embiid here with the upside. Going up against Indy, this Pacers team won as underdogs against the Bulls yesterday. Now on the second night of the back-to-back, maybe a little tired. And you got Embiid going up against a team that ranks 25th in terms of DraftKings points allowed to the center position.
All right, what do you want to do at center, Chinmay?
This is a bit of a pleasant surprise because I thought Julian was going to take this guy. He's talked about him a lot previously. I'm going with Domantas Sabonis for the Kings. He's got 3 straight games with at least 50 fantasy points. He's a little bit less of a cost than Jokic and Embiid, but we know that Kings offense has been flying this season. De'Aaron Fox is questionable with a hamstring injury, and if Fox doesn't play, Sabonis probably becomes the focal point of that offense. Give me the Kings big man at slightly less than the 2 MVP contenders.
All right, Chinmay, how about a forward worth spending up for on tonight's slate?
I'm going back to that Kings-Pelicans game, but I'm going on the other side here. I'm going with New Orleans forward Brandon Ingram. He had a monster game a couple games ago, almost 60 DK fantasy points. He is the focal point for the Pelicans with Zion Williamson still out, and Jonas Valanciunas is battling a calf injury. We don't know if he's going to play. The Pelicans are going to have to keep pace with Sacramento here. And I like Ingram to take a ton of shots in this matchup. His efficiency might not be there, but I think overall volume, you can't go wrong with a guy like Ingram. He's going to get a ton of shots in this matchup. I like him at the forward spot tonight.
All right, Jules, what do you think?
Give me a little bit of an off-the-radar revenge game for Jeremy Grant here. Going back to Detroit to play the Pistons. Grant, 35-plus DraftKings points in 3 straight, 44 yesterday in Orlando, 42 in a matchup against the Pistons in just 27 minutes earlier in the year. I know it's a back-to-back, but as long as Grant is on the floor, and particularly if any of the bigger names for the Blazers wind up resting, I think it's going to be a good spot for Grant. Detroit basically tapping out on everyone tonight, looking to keep those ping pong balls going.
Jules, there a guard you consider a must roster? Damian Lillard at top of the board here. We know the injuries that Portland's dealing with, so he's put this team on his back, man.
Yeah, Lillard has obviously been going nuts lately. If the Blazers play everyone, I will say I'm a little bit nervous of blowout potential there because of how thin Detroit is. So, like, I'll spend up for a Jeremy Grant going back to Detroit. I don't think I can do the 11-6 on somebody like Lillard. So I'll look down a little bit. I think that, somebody that could be a little bit off the grid would be like a Donovan Mitchell because he's questionable for this game and it's against the Celtics, known for their defense. Mitchell was at shoot-around participating. If he plays just from an ownership standpoint, I think you might be able to get good ownership on him, which comes in handy on a slate like this. If he doesn't, then just consider going with Darius Garland because all the usage is going to go to him with Mitchell out of the lineup.
All right, Chinmay, you got James Harden $1,500 cheaper there than Damian Lillard coming off that 69 fantasy point performance against Milwaukee.
It's very tempting to take Harden in this matchup, but I think Embiid has a bigger game against the Pacers than Harden. I'm actually going with Lillard if he does play. There is some concern that this will be a blowout. It's a back-to-back for Portland. They might rest some guys. But Lillard has had 3 straight games with at least 50-plus fantasy points. He had 66.8 yesterday against the Magic. He tends to beat up on these bad teams. He went for 71 against Houston. He had a big game against Orlando. The Pistons are tanking and surprisingly have put up some fight, actually, against some of these middling, inconsistent teams that want to believe that they're contenders. The Blazers just don't have a whole lot outside of Lillard right now offensively. So the price point is high, and there are some concerns that he might not play the whole game or might not even play at all because of a back-to-back. But if he is in the lineup, I think you got to go with the Blazers guard here, even though that price point is pretty high, just based on the track record recently.
All right, Chinmay, you're spending up there, but where can we find some value tonight?
The Pistons are in tank mode, but Hamidou Diallo is a nice value spot here, under 5K. 27.6 DK fantasy points averaging in his last 3 games. And he's going to get a ton of minutes here. Bogdanovic is out. Stewart is out. Duran is out. I think Wiseman is questionable. Killian Hayes is questionable. So even some of the fringe guys that Detroit wouldn't normally play if they were competitive are questionable in this tank race. So I think Diallo is set to once again get big minutes here, and he's going to get a ton of shots. And that's usually enough when you're in this 5K and under range. To deliver solid value. So give me the Pistons forward tonight.
All right, Jules, real quick, where are you looking for value?
Yeah, the Pistons are going to be a source of value for the rest of the year. I'll say the Celtics, though. They just went to double overtime last night against the Knicks. They're in Cleveland tonight, and they're back home on Wednesday. So they've obviously already taken off, but there's a good chance they maybe left some dudes home or are just going to sit some dudes on the bench for this game. Al Horford doesn't play back-to-backs, and Rob Williams is out already. So what we do know is that even though Horford hasn't officially been ruled out, there will be value in the Celtics front court, and they're going to need to play bigs against a big lineup like Mobley and Allen. So you're looking at, even though he played 44 minutes last night, you're looking at Grant Williams, you're looking at Mike Muscala, you're looking at Luke Cornett, Blake Griffin. You can have 2 of those guys probably in your lineup tonight.
All right, gentlemen, your job here is done. We got NHL Morning Skate coming up next, right after Ross Tucker catches up with Greg Cosell about one of the top quarterback prospects to come out of Kentucky.
We talked about Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson. We didn't, Greg, really get into Will Levis.
Yeah.
It feels like Levis and Richardson are the 2 guys that people are most polarized on. It seems like people kind of know how they feel about Stroud and Young, but Levis and Richardson are the 2 that, man, depending on who you talk to, they have different opinions of. What do you see when you break down the tape of Kentucky's Will Levis?
Yeah, Levis is interesting. I watched him in detail last summer from his 2021 season, and then I watched him in detail this year, obviously, from the 2022 season. And in 2021, the offense, and there's probably many reasons for this that we don't know, but in 2021, the offense had a much more streamlined look. He could play far more rhythmically. He would get back, the ball came out. He looked very timing based. He's got a power arm, a compact delivery. Ball comes out. He's big. He's physical. He's competitive. He's a little stiff, but he looked very good in 2021. In 2022, for whatever reason, and the O-line was not very good. They had lost, I think, 4 guys to the NFL, so they were only playing with one starter. They lost some skill players as well. For some reason, the offense didn't have the same fluid feel to it, and everything with Will Levis looked like a struggle, Ross. So the talent obviously doesn't change, the traits don't change, but now you have to decide, what kind of player he is. Like I said, big arm, can make all the throws, willing to make throws. I think in an ideal world, and I had this conversation with a coach, he'd probably be a second round type player, but we know that that's not the way it works. So someone's going to draft him. I think he needs to be in a really defined system, put him under center, have play action be a significant part of the pass game. That defines reads. You're trying to generate as much primary read throws with Will Levis as you possibly can, Ross. That's really the goal if he has to play early.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Sweat. Jesse and Emerson here. Now, we saw the results of Region O at the top of the show, and the voting is live for the A region. We have DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and RotoWire's Paul Bruno here. Guys, we have a huge 14-3 matchup of 2 all-timers who are, in fact, still playing at the top of their game in their respective sport. They're still in their respective leagues. Alex Ovechkin and LeBron James. The great one and the guy that everyone likes to talk about. Is it him or MJ? Him or MJ? It's like, have you ever heard of that conversation? Yes, we have a million times. These two matched up in the A region. Jeff, who are you taking in this one?
Oh, man. I mean, am I going to be the guy who tries to make an argument against LeBron James?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to. Alex Ovechkin is absolutely fantastic. He has been such a high-end performer for most of his career. The longevity with both of these athletes is amazing. But, I mean, like, if he was going up against anyone else here, anybody else, I would make a strong case for Alex Ovechkin, who's probably going to end his career as the top goal scorer in the NHL history. An absolutely monumental feat if he gets there, but it's LeBron James. I mean, what are we talking about here? The best player ever to potentially play the game of basketball? An all-stat performer, a guy who absolutely, you just carries your team every night in daily fantasy NBA. I'm sorry, like, I just can't do it. You have to give it to LeBron. It's kind of an unfair matchup for Ovechkin. I don't know why he's only a 14 seed. I think that's the bigger conversation here. But yeah, we got to give it to LeBron. I mean, he's just out of this world. I mean, he beat the Monstars and everything. So give me LeBron James here. Really feel bad for Ovechkin getting this matchup. He deserves a better fate for sure.
Yeah, can't forget his Space Jam 2 accomplishments as well. Paul, you can't make an argument here, right? You just got to go with LeBron James, even though you're a hockey guy.
Yeah, I think that's the call. I agree with all of what Jeff said. I will say though that Ovechkin has done it in a way that I think he can be more proud of. You can be more proud of being a fan of his. I don't like the crybaby stuff around LeBron James' career. There's been too much of that and too much of the team building around him. Ovechkin was dealt a card. He went to the Caps, stayed there, and I applaud him for being on one team, distinguishing himself for that team, and doing it so without a lot of other extraneous headlines. So James is the pick, but Ovechkin has him beat in one category, and that's class.
Ooh.
Okay.
Like
Wow.
that.
Shots fired, Paul. I like it. 6-game slate tonight around the NHL, my dudes. Before we get into that, though, trade deadline has come and gone. Jeff, biggest winner, biggest loser of the NHL trade deadline?
It's the Bruins. Winner.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest winner pretty much has to be the Boston Bruins. I mean, Dmitry Orlov obviously turning into an all-world defenseman here. It's looking pretty good for them so far. Not going to lie, that seems like a very savvy pickup. Obviously, also added a lot of depth to their roster just with the addition of Tyler Bertuzzi as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say like the losers here for the trade deadline aren't so much teams that made trades. It's teams that just did nothing. Calgary Flames certainly stick out. They're on a losing streak. They basically did nothing to change their luck here. And they're getting bypassed. They're getting bypassed here by a team like Nashville, who actually subtracted players. So at least Nashville was adding to their draft pool as they're going and still giving themselves a chance to make a run here. Nashville, in a lot of way, with the trade with Tyson Barrie and Edcombe, obviously, in a lot of way, they're a big winner. Potentially in this scenario, if they even get to the playoffs and still added some capital. So, looking at the Bruins potentially as the biggest winner, I think the Rangers, at least making a run of it is nice. I still prefer the Bruins there, but the Eastern Conference teams all did what they were supposed to do, which is add at the top. And I think that the losers are teams like Calgary, who were on the fringe, and they just decided to kind of let roll the dice, so to speak, and it's just not really working out for them so far.
Paul, which team needed to make a move and did not?
Boy, I think Edmonton blew it. I think that they needed to bolster defense a lot more than they did, and their offense too, for that matter. They're still basically offense circulating around 3 players, and I think that's just wrong. And so they're going to rue that, and they still haven't fixed the defensive side of the game. I also think Carolina is close enough to the top of the standings. They should have done a heck of a lot more than they did. And how about at the other end of the spectrum? Montreal made a couple of pickups in the beginning of the season. They were hoping to parlay those assets into trade pieces that would get in more draft picks, but they didn't really do a very good job of that. Consider that Chicago club that's at the bottom of the standings with them acquired a boatload of draft picks. They had 18 picks in the next 3 rounds, 3 years of the draft. I mean, in the first 3 rounds, and Montreal by comparison has 11, I think. So they missed a boat in terms of accumulating future assets. Chicago's committed to a rebuild, and they'll show you how it's done.
All right, show us how it's done tonight. Jeff, what is your top DFS play for tonight's games?
Yeah, there's a couple games on the slate here that you're obviously going to want exposure to. There's a lot of centers who are just absolutely playing out of their minds. I'm going to go with my boy Rupa Hintz at 7K. Again, I just mentioned the Flames here. The Flames look like, this could be the final nail in the coffin tonight. They're going up against the Dallas squad, who scored, 4 more goals in each of the last 3 games, just laid a thumping down on Colorado. We're going to talk about this line in a bit too, because I don't really understand why Dallas is only a small favorite. But Hintz 5 points in his last 2 games. He's scored 6 goals in his last 5 games as well. So he's just a terrific all-around player, and he's going to give the Flames a ton of trouble. A player who can get it done on special teams, and obviously at 5-on-5. But center is a position you're going to want to load up on tonight. It's not just Hintz. I'm sure there's a couple guys. I know. Paul's favorite, Stützle, is definitely going to be talked about as well, but there's a couple players you can get exposure to, and we haven't even talked about the Buffalo and Edmonton game, which could be pushing a 7.5 total tonight.
Paul, you rolling with Stützle here?
No, I've got his line mate, Brady Tkachuk, highlighted. He's been maybe the top player in hockey in the last month in terms of fantasy play, with the offensive totals that he's put together alongside Stützle, costing $7,500. You can take either one in this matchup. Should be a lopsided win for the Sens. And then how about Leon Draisaitl? I'm surprised Jeff didn't go here. They got a trip to Buffalo scheduled. He cost $1,900 less than McDavid, so you get him for less than $8,000 for the same matchup. I'm all over that one too, because it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Buffalo's not really noted for keeping the puck out of their net lately.
Paul, who's the top of your value play board tonight?
Well, I did say a high-scoring game is expected, Edmonton and Buffalo. Going to go to the other side of that to look at Casey Middlestat for the Sabres, costing $3,200 for a guy who's playing second-line left-wing minutes, and he's got 6 points in his last 7 games. And I also like another guy in the sub-4,000 range playing first-line minutes for Calgary. The team is struggling, but Dylan Dubé's had a very nice year there, putting up 38 points in 63 games played, and I like his exposure in this game against the Dallas club.
What about you, Jeff?
I really like looking towards Nashville tonight for value. The Predators, they're playing pretty well, and they still got a lot of their top players out, but that's created opportunity. A guy like Cody Glass is only 3,400. Again, playing top 6 minutes. He's obviously not like the most prolific fantasy or offensive player in the world, but I mean, look, you don't need him to do that much at 3,400. He's got 5 points in his last 10 games. He's playing a ton of minutes every night. Like I said, top 6 role, getting power play exposure. And Matt Duchene at 5,400 is way too cheap. We're talking about the Canucks on the other side here. Worst penalty kill in the league. Duchene's going to play a ton of minutes. I also think you need to look at the Predators for value in net. Juicy Soros is only 7,800 here. Hasn't allowed more than 2 goals in his last 4 starts. He's looking to try and carry this team into a playoff spot. Saros is a great play tonight, in my opinion. Potentially going to face a lot of shots, too. So Nashville across the board, I think good value.
All right, favorite puck line or money line bet, Jeff? Take us over to the DK Sportsbook for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with Nashville here. I get that they're shorthanded. I get that they're without a couple of their top players, that they're playing a weak team in Vancouver here on the road. And you've got a guy in UC Saros who's just, he's not going to allow a ton of goals. The Canucks are not a good team. The Predators are also 4-1 against Vancouver last 5 times these two teams have played. So the Predators quite clearly are comfortable in at least limiting the Vancouver Canucks offense over the last few seasons. And this one really does come down to Saros, and also just the fact that I think Nashville is just a well-coached team. They're extremely focused. You got a Canucks team who's just out there in, quite frankly, like no man's land, just waiting for this season to end. I love the fact that you can get minus 105 there. I really like that. Like I said, I like the Stars at home. I don't know why they're only minus 140 here. This is a team whose offensive players have really come to play over the last 3 games. I think even looking to the Stars on the puck line at plus 190 is nice. Ottinger should be in net. The Flames just don't look that good of late. I think that Dallas could cover that puck line. So like the plus 190 there for a Dallas Stars puck line bet as well.
All right, Paul, where are you going?
Well, I love the call on the puck line for Dallas. Look, they've got 20 goals scored in their last 4 games played. Conversely, Flames only scoring 8 in their last 5, and really their playoff chances are dwindling by the hour. So I like Dallas to cover that one easily tonight. I also am surprised that Jeff didn't take a look at the Edmonton puck line of plus 160 at Buffalo. I think I trust their offense more than the Sabres right now, and that's saying a lot, but because Buffalo is one of the leading scoring teams in the league. But the Oilers seem to have the offensive part of their game in fine shape with their top guns just going off every night. So I'm happy to take the plus 160 there.
Guys, goal total. Paul, I know you guys have mentioned a big one already, but which one you got your eye on?
Edmonton and Buffalo. I think it's going to be a shootout. The line is 7.5. That's very high. I'd even go to 8.5 for this one to get the better payoff there. Ottawa and Chicago, that should be an over as well. The line is set at 6.5. Buffalo, Chicago's given up a lot of goals. Ottawa's scoring well over 5 in their last 5 games played, so they might get there all by themselves this evening.
Jeff, currently it's 7 right now, the Oilers-Sabres goal total.
Yeah, it definitely feels like maybe they can't set this one high enough. Obviously, you're paying a lot of juice at minus 125. I'm actually prefer an under for my favorite total. I'm going to go back to the Jets and just play the under trends with the Jets. They played a couple loose games against the Oilers, but I mean, the Oilers will drag you into shootouts. Looks like David Riddich's gonna start tonight. He's been a little bit better at home. The trends with Winnipeg and the under has just been, I mean, again, it's just been a moneymaker. The under is 13-2-1 in the last 16 games with the Jets when they played in a 3 games in 4 nights situation. You also look at the Sharks. The under's 3-0-1 in their last 4 road games. So you got a pop gun offense in the Sharks coming to town. You got Riddick starting, who's been pretty solid at home. I think the Jets bounce back here, play a tight game, and they just play to their trends, which has been unders. We'll go there again at 6 total and take the under there at plus 105.
All right, thanks, guys. Good stuff. Spring training is underway, and one of the biggest changes this year is the introduction of the pitch clock. Games are shorter, pace of play is up. So here's the Baseball is Dead gang talking about the pitch clock and what it's going to look like in the playoffs.
Why baseball would say, all right, it's the postseason. Everybody agreed to remove the ghost runner, and everybody says yes. Why does that happen?
I know why. Because, no one wants to watch a 16-inning game. Most people, if it's 1 out of 162 games, that don't really matter. But if it's the playoffs, people will. Mm-hmm. And the ghost runner is kind of fluky, a little bit.
All of that, Joe.
More fluky than no ghost runner. But if it's a regular season game, it's more fun.
It's because we all know, or I think for the most part, the competitive streak in us says we want this done the right way. And whether it's right or wrong today is your opinion, but you want this to be decided in a fashion you're familiar with, one that doesn't feel cheapened by a new progressive rule addition. You want this thing to just, you know what? I want to be able to square up and throw punches and then have a beer with them afterwards. That's what taking the ghost runner away does, is it gets you back to a place where you're comfortable with however this is going to play out. And you nailed it, Joey. If you mean to tell me the world championship is going to be decided by the last man standing, the last team standing, and that could take however long, but then yeah, I'm all in. But if this is May and you're telling me I got to hunker down for a 4.5 hour piece, I'm out.
Fuck that.
That's what fans are saying.
And the pitch clock is different though, because like, dude, the pitch clock that's the postseason is when you need it the most. It's like when the most casual fans are watching, when the most eyes are on it, when you want it to like be fast and the most entertaining. So that would
I
be the
gotta
worst.
say, I gotta say though, like when it takes a long time to deliver a pitch in the postseason, I feel like the anxiety and the tension are increasing. I don't feel that way in like 98% of the instances during the regular season. And like, that's why I think it bothers me less, because I'm like, I don't know, maybe this is just too subjective to really mean anything, but it just feels like I'm riding with it in the postseason in a way that I'm not in the regular season. And I'm like, let's hurry up.
All right, the fourth elevated designated event in 5 weeks. None bigger thus far than the Players' Championship. It arrives at TPC Sawgrass this week. Jeff Ulrich is back. Colin Sherwin has returned. Let's do some PGA Tour pin placement, shall we? What's the first guy? Who do we want to talk about first?
All right, Rory McIlroy. Yes. The man, the myth, the Rory. Where is he going to finish, Jeff?
I mean, Rory looks like he's starting to get in tune here. And when Rory gets in tune and he gets that confidence, he usually just finishes inside the top 10. Obviously has won at the Players as well before. I'm just going to put him for T5. I mean, I think Rory comes to play. I'm not going to peg him for the win this week for the simple reason that, I mean, I still feel like Rory's eye right now should be on the Masters. And I think ideally for Rory too, I mean, if we're playing the whole like narrative game, Rory doesn't win this week. He puts in another top performance. He chills for a couple weeks, then he comes and gets it done at Augusta. So let's put Rory down for a top 5. Everything was there last week. He probably should have won. We heard him talk about not looking at the scoreboard on 14. Probably cost himself the win, it sounds like. But I think he's going to have another solid week. He's really figured out Sawgrass and how to play these technical tracks, and I have no reason to doubt him this week.
All right, Colin. Common bond over the last 3 editions of this event. They've each been won by superstars: Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Cam Smith. It's kind of been unpredictable in the years prior to that. Sometimes you have big names, sometimes you got random dudes. So what do you think? Where's Rory finishing this year?
Rory McIlroy will win this tournament.
Whoa,
no playoff.
There we go.
He wins it. He wins it straight up. He's going to walk off the course with the trophy. He'll probably take a couple weeks off. He's going to go to Augusta. He's going to win Augusta. Rory McIlroy's the best golfer in the world. He proved that yesterday. He just missed a couple, sometimes things happen. It's golf. These things happen. Jeff's right. Technical tracks like this, perfect setup for him. Can unleash his whole game. He's got every shot in the bag. He's playing lights out right now. Rory McIlroy's going to win this tournament. No playoff.
Wow.
So he's plus 850 outright on the DK Sportsbook for this week. John Rahm with the same odds, but John Rahm, man, looked like a completely different golfer from day 1 to days 2, 3, and 4. Jeff Ulrich.
He's not Florida man.
No, he's not. Jeff Ulrich. Kurt Kitayama, man. Let's go. David versus Goliath. Hell of a first career win yesterday at Bay Hill. Where's he going to finish this week, man?
I tell you, as a Kurt Kitayama stan who's bet him at Pebble Beach and the Congressional or whatever the frick it was, the CJ Cup. Oh, it was tough to watch not having any money on him, but a very, very solid player. I'm going to peg him for a missed cut this week. I am. And you say, why, Jeff? You like this guy. Well, it's TPC Sawgrass. Go look at the made cut rates for all the top players. And we just finished talking about Harris English. I don't think Harris English has made the cut at TPC Sawgrass in like 5 attempts, his last 5 attempts. It happens. Kurt Kitayama coming off a long week. Now he's got to think about Sawgrass. There's water everywhere. He hasn't played here much. I'm going to peg him for a missed cut. It's got nothing to do with performance or anything. It's got to do with the course. It's highly variable. You are going to see players like Kitayama who have been playing well come in here and just be a disaster. And it's got really nothing to do with them. It's just that one shot can get you so off on Sawgrass. Kitayama, like I said, coming off a long week. I'm going to say missed cut. There's going to be a lot of players like that this week where you're just like, wow, what happened to this guy? And Kitayama's going to be one of them.
All right, Colin, can he hold off the elite names for a second straight week?
No, but the price right now at 90-1 to win, I mean, I don't hate it. Like, I mean, so he was 80, then he won. He got down to 65, and now he's up to 90-1. That's just a little too high. He's not going to win this week, but that's for a guy that's in form and playing this well and has this kind of talent. 90 to 1's too much. If I'm going to peg him anywhere, I put him in like a top 20. But I agree with Jeff. Like, look, there's only 65 in ties that make the weekend here this week. This is the toughest field, maybe in golf, like all season long, because you're getting not only the guys, the top 50 in the world and the elites and all that, but you're also getting the guys that are playing the best, that have played the best so far this season, that get exempted into this tournament as well. $25 million on the line, 144 spots. It's as loaded a field as you'll see in all of golf. Some guys are going to miss. He might be one of them. But for me, 90 to 1, that's just a smidge too high. Just a little taste, not much, but just a little taste at 90 to 1.
All right, Patrick Cantlay. Colin, let's talk about this guy. Starting to heat up, finished top 5 in each of his last 2 starts, gained over 8.8 strokes ball striking alone at Bay Hill. So he's looking pretty good right now. What do you think? I also want to point out really quick, TPC Sawgrass is where Emerson got married.
It's true.
So,
wow.
Yeah, how could we not mention that fun fact?
I'll post pics throughout the week, everybody.
Okay, good.
A17, if you know what I mean.
Did you do it on the 16th green? Did your wife throw you in the water? Like, what happened?
No, we took a bunch of pictures on 17, though. That was back, it was still in May at the time. So a lot of our pictures around the course, you could still see like some of the grandstands in the background.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of ruins a lot of it, but in my opinion.
Very cool. So Cantlay missed cut here last year. Like we said, some guys play well in Florida. T4 last week, but otherwise he's not really been Florida man in his career. Cantlay for me is a stay away this week. Solid player, very good player. Will be in contention in the majors this year. Wouldn't be surprised to see him even take one down. This is not the spot for him this week. This is a stay away. I think last week was sort of like a blip more than it was definitive of who he was. But I mean, how do you completely ignore a guy who went third at the Genesis and then T4 last week? So just not at this price. But keep an eye on him because he's going to be in contention this year a lot.
Jeff, real quick, what do you think?
Biggest thing with Cantlay is just this price is just so low, plus 1,800. There's just no value. I'd love to bet him. I really would. He does eat up Pete Dye tracks. He does not have the greatest record at the Players, but he did finish top 25 his first 2 times here. I like him this week. I really do. I think he's going to have a shot, but man, this number needs to get bigger if you're really going to bet him.
All right, let's go Jordan Spieth, who, my God, could not putt to save his life on the back 9 yesterday. This is a dude who had T4 in his debut in 2014. He's missed the cut now, 5 of his last 7 appearances. Colin, where's he finish?
I think he can get his top 20 this week. Look, Jordan Spieth is the most Jordan Spieth should be sponsored by Paxil. He is just so up and down and up and down. He is all over the place. I mean, I love the guy, but you can either take a flyer on him to do really well or play him to miss the cut. But anything in the middle is just never a good play with Jordan Spieth. I'll take a little taste on him at the high, and then I would back it up with him just flat missing the cut to hedge it. But he's never finishing this tournament somewhere between 15 and 50th. He's finishing either above that or below that. That's just who he is. He's just his randomness is as high as anyone in golf.
Jeff, you agree with that? It sounds like.
Oh, 100%. Whatever I say about Jordan Spieth, the complete opposite is going to happen as well. This is a player that I never get right. I actually like him this week. I think that Jordan Spieth, when it comes down to it, what do we see with players wewinners? Eventually, these elite players figure it out and they get a win here. Who's got a win here? Rory, Thomas, Tiger's won twice, Phil's won before. I think Spieth eventually gets it done. We're talking about Cantlay. I like Cantlay. The betting number for Spieth at plus 3,000 is far better. I'll take the high variance outcome approach here with Spieth at plus 3,000. I actually think is a good outright bet this week.
All right, good stuff, guys. That's it. That is the show for us. We will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. Enjoy the rest of your day.